Hi everyone, so this is what I baked for a friend, but before I did that the stomach was hungry, so I had to eat my wache, wele, salad and sausage. Okay, this just by the way, let's get started. Okay, hi, so I'm coming to prepare cake for my friend, and I'm gonna use this eggs, the cocoa powder, the flour. This is pastry flour, margarine, honey, baking powder, and this flavor, vanilla. A bowl for my mixing, and then some bowls for the sieving. I hope the camera stands still for you. So there's one thing my mommy always say, that you may never know. What if? So anytime you are using a flour, whatsoever you will be using, especially when it comes to baking, you do your best to sieve it, because you may never know what if there are some particles and all that. So yes, I had to sieve the cocoa powder, the flour and all that to make sure it's as smooth as the way the word is pronounced. Smooth. So yes, I can't really tell what cake I'm doing though, but I know it contains cocoa powder and honey, so just merge it. So yeah, I used a margarine. I didn't use all the three you are seeing. I used two, then honey. My honey got finished, so I had to use mommy's own, and mommy's own was the purest honey. This is it. Yeah, it was black, it was sweet, it was straight from the honeycomb. So you have to whisk it thoroughly until you have a very smooth texture. The whisking was not easy. It wasn't, because mommy is not going to let you use the whisk machine, so you have to keep whisking. Now here I use 12 eggs, and one thing about me is before I use my eggs, I have to beat it in a separate bowl to make sure that it's good, because I don't want to spoil the whole thing, so I had to beat all my 12 eggs in a separate bowl, then keep whisking before adding my milk. I use 1.5 tin of milk. So then I added my flavor, vanilla manila. So yes, added my flavor to it. In fact, it wasn't enough for some to be left, so I just had to pour everything into the container and whisk. As for the whisking, dear, you can't do away without it. You have to whisk, because if you're not using the whisking machine, you're not using an oven, everything is manual. So you whisk until you have this texture where it's watery under and then a rough surface on top of it. Yep. And at this point, it's easy for you to start adding your pastry flour in it after a very good whisking. I added my pastry flour to it, but I had to do it in bits. You pour little by little, you add little by little. It wasn't easy, so mommy had to come help me pour the flour. So as she pours, then I whisk. And when you are whisking, it has to go one direction. You can't keep changing directions or movement, else it will give it a rough texture. So you have to whisk it in one direction. At this point is where you begin to feel pain. Then you know that indeed you are preparing cake. So these are the baking tins I used for the cake, and these are the baking sheets as well. So the baking sheets prevent the cake from getting burnt easily. And this is the oven I used. There's no way I'm going to use the gas oven. So I had to whisk it again to make sure that it was smooth. Ready for the other remaining ingredients. And so I had to add the baking powder to it. I wasn't too sure of the baking powder, so mommy had to help me out with the baking powder. And you can see by the way, she's a caterer, so she's an expert in all that. So yes, we poured a reasonable amount of baking powder just for this particular cake. I know you guys will be like, oh, that's a lot. Believe you me, the cake was a lot. So I added the cocoa powder to it. Then I had to whisk. This is the point where a savior has to come, because I can't do it on my own. So my mommy had to whisk it for me. Thanks, Mom. She whisked and whisked and whisked and whisked and whisked and whisked and whisked. Kept whisking, and I did a tasting and the scooping. So you have to whisk in one direction to give it that smooth texture. Very smooth. Very smooth. Yep. As you can see, it's very smooth. She did well. She did well, honestly. This is the difficult part of the cake. The whisking. So I helped her a little bit. I tasted it and I did the scooping. So when you are scooping, you have to be careful because of the baking powder added. You don't have to make it too full. A little minimal, then you can keep baking. So these are the tin I used, but you are going to see the birthday girl's tin. It was the biggest. Anyways, you can contact me if you need anything catering wise, food, pastries, drinks, whatsoever it is. You can contact me and I will be at your service. So this is the birthday girl's cake. It was big and I'm so happy I did a cake for her because she deserves it. She's an amazing friend. God bless you. And this is the oven, the manual one, the charcoal one, and then ta-la! I checked if it's well cooked or it needs a little heat, and this is the result. And the texture is awesome. It's really awesome. I kept the cake after 3 days. I had the cupcakes with me after 3 days and it still tastes. Yes, this is a 3-day cake. It was nice. It was tasty. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, kindly comment, and if you haven't subscribed, do well to subscribe.